Mhm.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Heather Turner. I am the District 53 Social Media Chair, and tonight's webinar is Road to Distinguished Toastmaster. It takes a lot of work to become a Distinguished Toastmaster. There are speeches to be given, leadership positions to hold, and other projects to accomplish. Have you ever wondered what is involved? In this webinar, Distinguished Toastmasters will go over some of the requirements that most people find particularly challenging. It will also include a panel discussion and some time for questions at the end. Just a couple of quick housekeeping things before we start. This webinar is being recorded and it will be available on the District 53 website by tomorrow, as well as on other venues. If you have questions, please ask them as they occur to you and we will address them at the end of the webinar. And Michael Aron, as our first presenter, please take it away.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. As Heather said, there's a lot of work to be done to become a Distinguished Toastmaster, and in tonight's program we have several presenters who will tell you all about some of the more complex requirements. Here's the agenda for tonight. I'm going through the introductions right now. Our first presenter after the introductions is Lawler. Lawler has been a passionate Toastmaster for 9+ years. She's a member of Toastmasters of Greater Burlington and Champ Masters, both clubs in the Burlington, Vermont area. Currently, she is serving as the Area 8 Director for Division G, District 45, and will serve as the Division G Director this upcoming Toastmasters year. The final project for her DTM was to coach the Champ Masters Club to Distinguished, which was accomplished in May when the club attained Select Distinguished status. The next presenter will be Dave Wheeler. We might have a problem with Dave showing up, so if he doesn't show up, we'll go on to the next presenter, but if he does, David Wheeler has held multiple club and district officer positions, including District 53 Governor in 2010-2011. He's currently a member of the Keene Toastmasters Club. He will be presenting a module on the High Performance Leadership Project. The next presenter, Scott Green, will be presenting a module about the Better Speaker Series. Scott Green is the outgoing Division Director for Division G, District 45. He belongs to several clubs in southeastern New Hampshire and eastern Massachusetts, and by several I mean many. And my name is Michael Aron. I will be doing a session on being a club sponsor, mentor, or coach. I am a 16-year Toastmaster, about to get my second DTM. And I also belong to the Keene Toastmasters Club and the club in downtown Hartford, the XL Catlin Toastmasters Club. At this point, I would like to go over some ground rules that Heather already went through in a way. The session's being recorded and available for later viewing. And any questions you have, as you think of them, put them in the question box and we'll deal with them at the end of the session. At this point, I'd like to pass this on to Lawler, who will cover the Toastmasters educational program.
Thank you, Michael. It's my pleasure to be here this evening. Many of you are interested in becoming DTM, or some of you may not know much about it. So that's what we're going to be discussing tonight. How do you get there? You may have seen the education program flowchart. It talks about the leadership track and the communication track, and it doesn't outline all the many steps that you have to go through to get there. To attain your DTM award, you must complete quite a few projects. There are 40 manual speeches, 10 in the Competent Communication Manual, and the remaining 30 in advanced manuals. The advanced manuals cover such things as public relations, storytelling, special occasion speeches, the professional speaker, technical presentations, and many more topics. You also must complete 5 presentations or workshops. They may be such things as a module from the Leadership Excellence series, or the Better Speakers series, or the Success Leadership series. You also must complete 1 presentation, workshop, or project as the leader of a team. It can be a team of 1 other person or many other folks. This is going to be covered in our High Performance Leadership module, or HPL. This might be something you might do for your work or another organization. It's a very useful project. You also must complete 22 individual roles in meetings and club activities. One of them must be being the speech contest chair. Now these roles include such things as speaker, evaluator, counter, table topics master, Toastmaster, and general evaluator. Additionally, to attain your DTM, you must have served as a mentor to a member, served as a club officer for at least 6 months, and have attended officer training. At some point, you also need to serve as a district officer for 1 year. That could be your area or division governor or another district office. One final project you need to do is serve as a club, this is different from a member, a club mentor, coach, or sponsor. You need to be officially appointed to that position, and you must attain a successful completion. How do you get there? Well, first of all, it helps to be organized and record your achievements. Toastmasters has a member achievement record that you can download from online, and you can use that or you can use your own method. I happen to use an Excel spreadsheet that you can see on your screen. How do you get there? I like the acronym RSVP. Read the manuals. The instructions are very specific, and read them ahead of time. That leads into being strategic. If you fulfill the same role meeting after meeting, it's not going to help you move towards your goal of DTM. Always find a value in what you are doing. It will spill over into your work life, your relationship life, and other organizations that you may participate in, and continue to persevere. It all starts, as they say, with one speech or one presentation. Just keep going. And now I would like to pass it on to the next presenter.
Okay, Michael, it appears that
Yes.
Dave has not been able to log in, so shall we go on to Scott?
Yes, please do. Go ahead with Scott.
Okay, Scott, I am going to turn it over to you.
All right, let me choose which screen I want to show. All right, can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
All right. Good evening, everybody. This is Scott Green, past Division Director for Division G and District 45. And this next year, I'm going to be a POT in Toastmasters. That's just a plain old Toastmaster with no leadership role, which I'm very excited about. One of the speed bumps I came across in my road to DTM was I got to my 3rd Advanced Communicator project, the Advanced Communicator Silver, and it said that I needed to do 2 presentations from the Better Speaker series. And these are very valuable presentations, and I'm scratching my head wondering, why didn't I do these earlier on to learn how to open my speech or close my speech, or what my speech could consist of, how to overcome fear? And I realized that the content that Toastmasters gives you to present these presentations in your club is very bare bones and relies heavily on your experiences giving speeches to give them, which is why I think they wait until you're actually in your Advanced Communicator Silver Award. So I wanted to review what is the Better Speaker Series. The Better Speaker Series is a set of 10 books. Each presentation comes with the manual and a PowerPoint presentation. Now there's two ways to get them. You can go on the Toastmasters International website and order them to be delivered to your home, or you can download them for free. They cover such topics as beginning your speech, concluding your speech, organizing your speech, impromptu speaking, controlling your fears, selecting your topic, knowing your audience, using body language, creating an introduction. And I've found that these are really good topics when you're starting to start a new club. It's actually a good idea if you're trying to form a club to put one of these modules in at the beginning or the end of the meeting to help those people who are new to speaking kind of figure out what they're trying to do in Toastmasters. So when do you do the Advanced Communicator Silver Award is when you do the presentation. And like I said, and I think that's because it's about that time that you're really starting to figure stuff out. The anatomy of what you get. You get the booklet or the CD emailed to you, or you can download it. The PowerPoint, the outline, and the evaluation. Now I have one here that I just want to show you what it looks like. This is the Better Speaker Series speech. What it really shows you is how to conduct it, what kind of tools you're going to need as far as whiteboards, projectors, markers. Gives you tips for the presenter, and then it gives you an outline. And if you look at the outline, it's very simple. State the importance of your topic, make a startling statement. These are all of the things that are on the DVD, but there's no real meat to it. And the reason I say that is because it says it should be 10 to 15 minutes to give this speech. If you run through these PowerPoints, you're going to be done in 3 minutes. It should be more of a table topic. But I think to add some real substance to your presentation, it really relies on you to draw from your own experience in speaking to make it fascinating for the audience and impactful. So like I said, you get the booklet, the PowerPoint outline, and there's even an evaluation in the end, which you're going to want to get because you're going to turn that into your VP of Ed when you go to submit for your Advanced Communicator Silver Award. So why? Like I said before, helps your newer members learn the basics of successful speech delivery, provides a refresher to you and your members. Let me say that again, provides a refresher to you. I really started to get better at giving speeches when I started digging into these manuals because it reinforced those concepts in my head. John Wooden, who's a great teacher, great basketball coach, said, I think the teaching profession contributes more to the future of our society than any other single profession. And I think likewise with Toastmasters, when we start teaching the concepts that we've learned on our path to DTM to the newer club members, it really not only reinforces those concepts within us, but helps just really show our new members how to effectively give a speech. Lastly, how do you get these programs for you to present? Visit Toastmasters International website, log in using your email address and password, search Better Speaker Series, purchase for delivery, or download the digital copy for free. That's all I got. I'll pass this on to the next speaker.
Michael, I'm turning it over to you again.
Thank you. And my presentation is going to be on being a club sponsor, mentor, or coach. This is one of the more difficult requirements for the DTM, And it is a requirement for the Advanced Leader Silver. The wording is exactly as it shows at the bottom of the screen. Serve successfully as a club sponsor, mentor, or coach. And I will tell you what that means, what it means to be successful in that role. So let's start with the club sponsor. A club sponsor is someone that helps a new club get started. Most of the work of the club sponsor happens before the club charters. You help market the club to prospective members. You're doing a demonstration meeting. You help them figure out where and when to meet, what might be a good time, what will be convenient for everyone. You will help them find a meeting place that doesn't cost them a lot of money. You will be attending meetings. Even before a club charters, people start having meetings, so you will help them figure out what the club roles are. And really, your most important role is to complete the charter forms. There are a lot of forms to fill out, and new members would not know what to fill out. Besides individual membership forms, there are club-level forms that have to be filled out. And you may help them set up a club bank account. When you are assigned as a club sponsor, up to 2 sponsors can be assigned by district leadership. And as Emmy mentioned, you must be assigned by the district leadership to be an official club sponsor. You can't just assume the role on your own. As with anything else in Toastmasters, there's a manual for this role, and the manual is called How to Build a Toastmasters Club. It goes into a lot of detail about what to do to help get a club started. And this manual, again, you can buy it and have it shipped to your home, or you can just download the PDF for free from Toastmasters International. As a club sponsor, your assignment is complete. You have successfully completed this requirement when the new club charters. So they have 20 members, 20 checks, or whatever the payments are. All of the paperwork is complete, sent in, and Toastmasters assigns that club a number. That's when you have succeeded in your role as club sponsor. The next role is the club mentor. If you are one of those people that likes to mentor new Toastmasters when they join your club, this role is that on steroids. You are going to mentor at least 20 members at the same time. At this point, the club has chartered, and you are going to help them get through their first 6 to 10 months. You attend meetings, you fill club roles, you show them how to be a Toastmaster, how to give evaluations, how to do table topics. You show them every role by example and by instructing them. You guide the club, you tell them exactly what they need to do. Many times club members will have questions about should we do things this way or that way. Many of the answers are, it's up to the club. You folks decide how to do it, and then if it works, fine. If it doesn't, change it and do something else. So in this role, you are the individual who mentors all the new members, and in the end, you may decide that you're going to join this new club. Sometimes you can't. In my case, I mentored 2 corporate clubs of which I was not a member of that company, so I could not join the clubs. And after the 6-month time period, the clubs let me know in no uncertain terms that they were done with me. They didn't need me anymore. And one of the things that I thought at first was, you're firing me as your mentor? I can't believe it. But I realized afterwards that the fact that they fired me as their mentor meant that I had done my job successfully, and this club was now able to be on its own. As with the sponsors, 2 mentors can be assigned by district leadership. Again, they have to be assigned by district leadership to be official. The same manual, How to Build a Toastmasters Club, works for the club mentor as well. And your assignment is complete when the new club reaches its 6-month anniversary. As the club mentor, you have a form that needs to be signed off by the club president at that 6-month period. When you send that in, you receive credit for the club mentor position. The third role that you could take is the club coach. Club coach assists a club that is failing. A club that is failing is defined as a club that has 12 or less members. You cannot be a member of that club at the time of the appointment. You're supposed to be an impartial observer and look at all the things that the club is doing, see how it's operating. Does it meet at the wrong time of the day, in the wrong weekday? What are they doing that is not attracting members? So as an impartial observer, you really cannot be a member of the club. You then assess the situation, make suggestions to the club members as to what they should do to fix the club. In some cases, it's as easy as taking, as Emmy noted, taking a closed club and making it an open club so that more people can join. You may have to change the time of day. They may change the attitude of the members. Many of these things are things that you could point out. As a club coach, sometimes you are dealing with negative atmosphere in the club because the few people that are left are all burned out and they're just used to doing things the way they're doing, and they don't want to take your advice. But you have to be tactful. You have to use your leadership skills and really try to tell them that you're helping them to become a distinguished club so that the people are not burned out. Your goal is to help the club become distinguished. Again, up to 2 coaches are assigned by district leadership. The manual for this role is called How to Rebuild a Toastmasters Club. Again, available as a PDF from Toastmasters International. This assignment could take you up to 2 years. The assignment is complete when the club reaches distinguished status in a current Toastmaster year, or if it doesn't make it by then, in the next Toastmasters year, which is why it could take you up to 2 years. So this, of all the DTM requirements, this is probably the longest lasting one, and it will test all of your leadership skills. Again, a summary of these jobs. You must be assigned by the district leadership. All of these jobs involve mentoring in one kind or another, and each role will require all of your leadership, listening, and communication skills. They are difficult, but at times really, really. At this point, we're going to open up for the panel discussion, unless we have Dave. And I have a question for the club, for the DTMs on the panel. The panel is going to be Emmy Lawler and Scott Green and myself. And the question I have for you is, what would you like to have known when you were going through the program that you know now? And I'll start with Emmy Lawler.
Yes. Hi everyone. I would have liked to have known how to be more strategic. I think we all touched on that subject a little bit, but as Scott mentioned, I think you can work on more than one project at a time. You might fit in your HPL while you're doing something else. Currently, I'm working towards a second DTM, and I have 2 competent leader manuals going because I have completed almost everything in one and I'm starting on the other. I would have also liked to know strategically about what Michael talked about, the coach, mentor, sponsor. Those opportunities can be few and far between, or can sometimes be outside of your district or outside of your area and difficult to attain. So had I known about that, I might have been able to work on one of those earlier. So generally speaking, a little bit more about strategy without overwhelming a new Toastmaster.
Thank you, Emmy. And now I'll ask the same question of Scott. Just like table topics.
No, honestly, I wish I would have known about Toastmasters 20 years earlier. Because what I found is after I joined Toastmasters and started applying the lessons I learned from the club in club leadership in the area and division level, of learning how to empower people through recognition and awards, my private career actually started to take off simultaneously, and I think it was a direct correlation to me practicing the skills that I learned in Toastmasters at work. Now, if there's anything specific that I wished I would have known earlier, it's exactly what is an HPL, because as you may know, in Division G, there's less than a handful of people who have actually achieved DTM, and the people who were an influence and around me. In fact, let me take you back to the first contest I went to. Our area decided to have a contest, and I guess this is an ongoing thing in Toastmasters, but our club leadership came up to me and said, hey, I guess we have these contests. Would you like to compete in them? I'm like, sure. What is it? They said it's a table topics contest, and it's tomorrow. I'm like, tomorrow? Okay. So I show up and win them, and one of the gentlemen who was there at the contest asked me what club I was from. I told him, and he said, oh, wow, we didn't even know that club existed anymore. And that was really something that we had such weak leadership in the area and the division that we didn't even know on the club level of what was going on. And I think in retrospect, the thing that most influenced me as division director this year is the importance of communication and the importance of leadership. And I wish I would have grasped onto leadership in Toastmasters earlier than I did and started just digging into these things.
Thank you, Scott. Very good points. My own topic on what I would have liked to have known is the fact, and you've touched on all of these, is that you don't have to do all the requirements in order as it shows on the flowcharts. You have to file them in order, but you don't have to do them in order. That means if you are still working on your competent communicator manual, and as Emmy said, the opportunity for a club coach, mentor, or sponsor position opens up, jump on it, because they are few and far between. If you are going to do, if you have an opportunity to do a high-performance leadership project, and we can touch on that in a minute in the panel discussion because one of our presenters wasn't able to make it. But if you have a chance to do an HPL, a high-performance leadership project, do it and get it done. Then if you keep track, as Emmy said, when it's time to file your Advanced Leader Silver or Advanced Leader Bronze, you have your requirement done. You just have to let them know when it was done. Same thing with many people who have told me that they would have liked to have known that they could do the competent communicator and competent leader manuals at the same time. Many people do the competent communicator manual, leave the leader's manual aside, and then after they're all done with the competent communicator, they look at that manual and they say, oh, I could have gotten credit for all these meeting roles that I did while I was in Toastmasters for the last year. So look at all the Do all the jobs as they come up. District leadership, same thing. If an opportunity arises, take it, because they don't always come around. Be a club officer. So that's what I have found that I would have liked to have known when I went through it. Now let's talk a little bit about the High Performance Leadership Project during the discussion. Scott, do you want to tell us a little bit about it?
Sure. So what I've done, I've encouraged people to do their HPL just by simply organizing area and division contests, and I find there's a need for that. Obviously, it does require building a team, and it requires a lot of coordination. It's actually quite a bit of work, and I think it generally could be called an HPL. But not only that, I mean, there are food drives that we do at church and in the community, helping out at the soup kitchen, or we coordinated a what was it, a kickball tournament to help raise money for the Children's Hospital in Dartmouth a couple years ago, and that was real fun. And it was fun, and it was an HPL. So, I mean, to say any one thing is an HPL is hard to say, because it really could be anything.
Thank you, Scott. Yes, my first HPL was acting as campaign manager for my wife's run for state representative in Connecticut. She didn't win, but we ran an awesome campaign, and I had a leadership team, the treasurer, and several other volunteers, and we went through the whole program. She got 26% of the vote, which was really good for a candidate who had never been heard of before. And we certainly did learn a lot about leadership and team building. My second HPL for the second DTM is running this webinar. And for this one, I had to also get a team together, practice, get volunteers to be the presenters, and so on. As part of the HPL, you meet with a guidance committee to go through your project plan and so on. And then as you go through it, you meet with them several times. And when you're done, you give a speech at the end to your club or whoever, letting people know what you did for your project. Emmy, what was your HPL?
I organized a TLI for the division. And actually it was interesting. I did it one time standing in for someone who needed some help, and I did much of the organizing. And at the end of doing it, someone said, "Oh, you could have done your HPL." And I'm like, wow, I could have. I really wasn't that aware of it. Then I got the manuals and looked through the project and what was needed and the teamwork. So the second time I did it, I did get credit for my HPL.
That sounds great. And that again is one of those things that you can use something from in Toastmasters, something outside of Toastmasters. The only requirement for your guidance committee is that at least one member of your guidance committee needs to be a Toastmaster. So if you're doing a project at work, your guidance committee might include your manager and some other stakeholders in the project. As long as one of them is a Toastmaster, or you've included someone from your Toastmaster club in the guidance committee, then you have a good guidance committee, and it's a valid project. The way I look at the HPL, it's sort of the Eagle project of Toastmasters. A Boy Scout Eagle project requires the scout to do a leadership project where he is directing other people to do things or working with a team, and this is exactly the same thing. At this point, I would like to open it up for questions. So Heather, do we have any questions queued up?
We certainly do. So our first question is, do regular TMs, Toastmasters, get credit towards something just for attending the webinar? It's a very good question.
Yeah, I'm thinking about that. That is a good question, and I'm trying to think how that would fit in to any project requirement, and I really can't think of one.
I'm going to give you the sort of glib answer is you're going to get the knowledge that we are trying to impart on you. Yes, I don't think it satisfies any particular requirement, but it might give you an idea for maybe your own HPL or something you want to do for your club or something like that.
I would say if anybody's listening and they want to send me an evaluation, email it to me and then take credit in a competent leader book for giving me an evaluation.
That's awesome, Scott.
Oh, for evaluating you. Good idea.
Yes. Yeah, and then according to the new Toastmaster rules, I believe that is correct, that we can do the virtual attendance. I think technically that's what applied to that. Mm-hmm. Okay. Our next question is, I tried being a club coach. I gave it up because the club did not want to change. It was very discouraging. Ideas to not be so discouraged.
I mean, that sounds...
Yeah, I'm going to speak to that. I've just finished successfully being a club coach, and I think that was one of the more challenging projects I have ever undertaken. And I walked into a club that was a closed corporate club that had just opened up, and their membership had dwindled to just a few people, and they had the same president for the 2 years that they were in existence, and the folks were burned out because they were doing things the same. And as it turned out, after I joined the club and I found other members in dual membership. That was one of the first ways I got additional members, was another club that I belonged to. I had those folks join and touted the advantages of being a member of two clubs. Well, the president actually left out of state, and I became discouraged because I felt that she had held the club together. As it turns out, it opened the door to reach out to another member who had a lot of enthusiasm, who really was willing to take on new roles but was just hesitant because of the way it had been done. And we really invigorated the club, had new members. We really, it was incredibly satisfying that we got the club to select Distinguished this year. So I would say to you, as to not being discouraged, it's not necessarily about what you're doing. Just think, open the box and think out of it and think, what else could we do to get members? What else could we do to attract members? Keep enthusiastic yourself, show your own enthusiasm, and see if you can get one or two other people to pull along with you. And I think that's part of it.
Thank you, Emmy. I kind of agree with that. I coached a club that had gone through a reorganization, and their office was broken up into 2 separate locations. And so they had half the members in one location and half in the other. And they when I became their coach, they were calling in to the other location. And so half the members were on a teleconference call and half the members were live. And at first I thought, okay, well, this isn't going to work. But if I had really insisted on them dropping this whole teleconference thing, they would have lost both clubs. And so I realized that, you know, there are some things you can change, and there's some things you should just let them keep doing what they're doing. And the teleconference calls worked. And their rules for those club meetings was that the Toastmaster, or the speaker and the evaluator and the timer have to be in the same room. Table topics could be done from anywhere, and some of the other roles could be done from anywhere, but at least the speaker and the evaluator had to see each other. Again, we also opened that club as it was a closed corporate club. We opened it up to other people in the building, and we did manage to get the club to distinguish. One of the things you can ask the club members who are burned out and maybe don't want to change things is ask them what their biggest pain points are in the club, and you might even solicit some ideas from them as to what they think they should do. I mean, these people are really trying to keep their club going, and you have to come off as a helper, not as a know-it-all, not as the person who has all the answers, but someone who can help them and find, possibly together, something that will work. Next question.
Yeah, Michael, I just want to speak. I really like your point about not being the know-it-all or having all the answers, but speaking to the membership, and I think showing your own enthusiasm. And I found myself saying at times, I'd go to meetings, one was early in the morning, which was very difficult for me, and there'd be only 6 of us. And I'd say, you know, I dragged myself here, but I'm so glad I did because the energy was so high. And that really, really helped to keep the energy up.
Okay, thank you. And our next question is, when we do the Better Speaker Series modules, can we customize the PowerPoints and or do we have to use them at all?
I can answer that, and I would say there's nothing that says you have to use their PowerPoints. And Michael actually showed me a way last time we did a run-through on how to change the existing PowerPoints so you can modify them. I can't remember how that was, but I have done several Better Speaker Series even without a PowerPoint altogether, just talking about things. And I've done other ones that I've made all the slides up brand new myself. So yeah, I would say you do not have to use their PowerPoints.
Yeah, I'm going to echo that with Scott. What Scott says, I would actually encourage you in many cases not to use their PowerPoint because some of them can be quite dry. I've even found that I like to use flip charts because they are not used as frequently, and I found I have a good reception to that.
I agree with that. Yes, and don't read the materials from the book, as Scott said. It's very dry. The way to customize their PowerPoints is they come as a PowerPoint slide presentation format, PPS, or whatever the latest version of that is, and you just save it as a PPT. You know, you rename the file, and then you can open it up as an editable PowerPoint, and you can do whatever you want with it.
Nice.
Okay. Question, is it legal to do the same speech all the way through the Competent Communicator Manual?
You know, I can answer that one. At one time, I had thought, wouldn't it be cool to do one speech, and with each project in the Competent Communicator, work on that aspect for that speech. So by the time you get to the 10th speech, it's a wonderful speech, and there's nothing that stops you from doing that. The one thing I thought of was, I better do that for multiple clubs. Because if I'm going to do the same speech for my club 10 times, they're going to get pretty bored about it. And you might get pretty bored about it too, but there's that stops you from doing that.
That's exactly why I joined so many clubs, Michael.
Well, I think you have to look at what is it that you want to get out of your projects. Is it just to whip through the Competent Communication Manual, or do you actually want to improve and learn and grow? So for myself, I have never, if I've ever done the same speech again, I've never asked for credit for it. I've just redone it for whatever reason, because once I competed in a storytelling contest, so I recrafted a speech. There's nothing to prevent you from doing the same manual again later when you're an advanced speaker, but I would think, generally speaking, you would have different speeches. But it's, you know, there's nothing legal or illegal about it. It's not a legality thing.
No.
One of my hopes this fall is to compete in the humorous speech contest. And so I got the Humorously Speaking Manual, which has 5 projects in it. And I did the same speech all the way through, but the speech number 5 was so different than speech number 1 because I started looking at each project independently and say, how can I use this in my speech to mold my speech? And as I evolved through the book, my speech evolved also.
Yeah.
I agree. You can do it, and if you do it right, it would be a really great experience because you would be working on different aspects of that same speech, and then by the 10th one, it would be wonderful. You can do all kinds of other things with the Competent Communicator Manual. I know a member in District 53 who joined a Spanish and English-speaking club, and he did an entire CC manual in Spanish.
Oh, wow.
He is not a Hispanic, he's an American. So he used the manual to practice his Spanish.
Bravo.
Yeah. Again, I think it's what works for you. I think we've all been saying, and what is it that you get a benefit out of it and that you can improve and grow. And the idea of recrafting a speech for whatever reason is wonderful. 5 years after my icebreaker, or maybe 7 years after I did my icebreaker, I said, you know, I'd love to recraft that speech. And it was a wonderful experience. And the speech was so much improved.
Okay, thank you. So we do actually have 4 more questions to get to. You mentioned that there were 22 roles you need to fulfill as a DTM requirement. Is that list documented anywhere? I don't see it mentioned on the member achievement record form.
With that, if you just go to the back of your Competent Leader manual and count up all the projects that you need to complete, I think that's how I got to the number 22.
Okay, thank you. What are the time frames for completing a DTM?
One of the beauties of the Toastmasters program is that it is self-paced and it's totally up to you. I don't think there are any time requirements on any of the awards, and so you could do them at your leisure, you know, as you go along. The one thing I have to say is we are about to start a new set of educational awards. So when they switch over to the new educational program, there is a grace period of about 1 or 2 years when they will still accept the older awards. So that's the only time that I know of when there's some kind of a deadline. But once you, if you've started, you can take your time.
Okay, thank you. And let's see, the next question are, the club I mentored this past year asked me to stay on and mentor them for another year. This is not a big deal, but can I get credit for it? Or is there something further that I can do for them?
Well, first of all, to mentor a club, and that's, I believe it's a new club. Is it not a new club for the first 6 months?
Right.
Yeah, if it's an existing club, it would fall into the category of being a club coach. And then there are certain requirements about a limited number of members. And you could not, as Michael mentioned, when you are appointed as a mentor, you cannot be a member of that club.
Okay. They just came back and they were a new club. They just chartered, and no, I am not a member.
Okay. So yes, the club mentor position is 6 months. The fact that they ask you to stay on it means that they're a little bit still unsure of themselves. What you might want to do is just join that club and be a member and possibly take an officer position. In that case, anything you do will count for you. But just mentoring them past their 6 months, it doesn't fulfill any additional requirements.
Okay.
You might be able to get some sort of HPL credit for helping them with certain projects, but other than that, I don't know. Scott, do you have any idea?
No, I think you're exactly right. You know, that does time out after a while. The goal is to get to distinguished within that year. To do it the second year, I guess you'd have to be reappointed from the district again to even possibly get credit. But I think the best impact you could have on the club, and you alluded to this, Michael, was just become a member of the club and then become an officer and try to steer it that way.
Okay.
Right, because as a club mentor, you want to basically get yourself fired. That means the club has succeeded. You have succeeded as a mentor.
Well, there's a further comment from them in that I can't join the club. The club is a closed corporate club, and they actually reached Select Distinguished this year, but I communicated with them a lot, and they just liked having someone to talk to.
And yes, then just show up as a guest every once in a while.
Yeah, it actually sounds like this club, that they said that they have 32 members, so I think they're probably in good shape.
Yeah, they don't need you. They just want you.
Well,
And,
I guess
and it's kind of good, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, whoever that was that asked that question, more power to them, and congratulations. So, and then our final question, and I would encourage anyone that is still on the call, if you have additional questions, please ask them right now, because we're down to our final question, sort of like Jeopardy. What kinds of questions can we do for our HPL?
For your HPL, you can do any project that requires you to lead other people. You cannot do anything where it's just you, but any project. Scott mentioned some projects at their church. If you are in a PTA and they have a fundraiser or something like that, you can do that. If you have a project at work that you are actually employed to do, you can use that. As long as you get the manual, and there is a manual for the HPL, and there's a little side manuals for the guidance committee members. And as long as you get a guidance committee with at least one Toastmaster, almost any leadership project will work for you.
Right, and I would add to that, Michael, I mean, along the course of a Toastmasters year, there's area contests, division contests, and TLIs, which are all great HPL projects.
Right.
Okay. Emmy, anything to add to that?
No, I was just thinking there might be some community outreach events too. I know in Area 8 they have an annual Toastmasters event for children, and organizing that with your fellow Toastmasters could qualify as an HPL.
Okay, great. And this question just came in, is how many people at a minimum or maximum do I have to have on my guidance committee? And I was told I would also have to have an advisory committee.
The guidance committee is your advisory committee, and you need at least 2. I think that's it. One of them has to be a Toastmaster. The others don't have to be.
If you get the manual, or I think you can download it, it is pretty specific with instructions.
Okay. And Scott, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, we just had an incident where my Area 7 director did a HPL, and he had 2 guidance committee members. One of the guidance committee members had to go to to China because her father passed away, and it was impossible to get her to sign off on the final project, even though he'd given all the presentations and done the work. So I sent it in to Toastmasters to see what would happen with just one signature on it, and it was accepted by Toastmasters International.
Excellent.
Yeah, my recollection is that you need minimally one other, it could be a team of one other person or many other people. That's my recollection.
Yeah, there's a difference, though, between the team that is actually doing the work and your guidance committee.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, true. So let's take the area contest coordinator, right? If you're the contest coordinator for the area contest, you're going to definitely have one or two or three people doing that for you. But as far as the team who you're reporting to, who's holding you accountable, who's kind of guiding you in the project, that's only going to be two or three.
Right.
Okay. And then we just had a question come in regarding the HPL is what would be a suggested number for the committee for the HPL?
I would say 2 or 3 people would be a good number. You don't want too many. As with any committee, you start having too many people and it gets unwieldy. 2 or 3 is a good number. It's easy to meet. It's manageable.
Okay. And that looks like it for questions for this evening. Michael, do you have any last words?
I do. Thank you, everyone who is listening in for participating, for listening into our webinar. And I have a few things to say. First of all, you've seen some of the more complicated requirements that it takes to be a distinguished Toastmaster. It is a rewarding journey, so don't give up. Just do it. Do the requirements as they come up. As the opportunities are there, jump on them when you can. And good luck in your journey to become a DTM. At this point, I would like to thank my presenters, Emmy Lawler, Dave Wheeler, who unfortunately couldn't make it, Scott Green, and Heather Turner for being our moderator. And thank you also to District 53 for the use of their GoToWebinar account. This was a really great project for me to do, and I will be documenting certain things about what it takes to put on a webinar. Of course, Heather has done a lot of work on that already, so it's like I only am great because I'm standing on the shoulder of giants. So thank you very much to everyone who participated, and good luck on your DTMs.
And this is Heather, and I want to thank for all of their hard work on this, Emmy Lawler, Michael Aron, and Scott Green. And I'm sorry we couldn't have Dave Wheeler on tonight, but I know he was here in spirit. And I look forward to having everyone on our next webinar, whose topic is soon to be decided. And again, our webinar has been recorded. It will be available on the District 53 website, and it will also be available on other venues, including the other districts that we are happily participating with. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you very much, Heather.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.